Hey Danny, welcome to the Empowering Ability Podcast. How you doing today?
Thank you, Eric, and congratulations on getting this podcast off of the ground. That's really awesome.
Thanks, Danny. I appreciate that, man. I'm super excited that you joined us today on the podcast
Yeah,
to share your story.
yeah.
So maybe we can start there, Danny. Did you want to share your story?
Sure, I, I was adopted when I was 11 months. The, um, the circumstances of that is I'm not really willing to share, but
Yeah,
I'm 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 more of an advocate now, and I'm happy with the lifestyle I'm living. So yeah,
yeah, right on. So,
yeah.
so why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're up to now?
Uh, so I am a motivational speaker, and I travel around quite a bit. And how that came about is I was really frustrated on how the system didn't have any anything for um disabled people in terms of jobs and employment, because they kept saying no to me. Like every time I went for a job, they would keep saying no. So that was really frustrating. And so I said, huh, what is, what is it that I can do? So I, I came up with motivational speaking a few years ago, and that is going very well. Um, I don't have a huge um following uh right now, but yeah, it's slowly getting off the ground, and yeah,
That's awesome,
so
Danny. That
yeah,
speaks to how resilient you are, right? I mean,
yeah,
from your story, you kept hearing no, looking for employment, and you said, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna create my own employment,
yeah,
and
and
now you're a motivational speaker and building that business. So that's fantastic.
yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So when you do your motivational speaking, what are some of the things that you talk about?
Um, it's basically my story and showing people that you know what, there is a voice out there for you. You just have to find it, and I I try and help people find that voice and be that voice for those people who can't advocate for themselves, specifically uh, the non-verbal people. I really find that I'm a voice for those people.
Hmm.
So I really enjoy what I'm doing.
That's
So
fantastic.
yeah,
So, as that voice of people that might not have a voice, or maybe their voice is quiet, what is there something that you would like to share today with the people that are listening or tuning in?
I would like to say that if you have a son or a daughter that is nonverbal, or a brother or a sister, what have you, that is nonverbal, you really need to speak up for them, because I find a lot of people disregard nonverbal people, like they don't really pay attention to them, but I find that if you give them a way to communicate, that would be, they will communicate with you. They just have to be given an opportunity to do so. So that's what I would encourage anyone to do. And I'm not just talking about nonverbal people. It can be anybody. You just have to find what they're passionate about and help them succeed on that path that they want to do.
Yeah, I love that. So helping people to help communicate what their passions and interests are, especially the loved ones that are around them, right? Like you mentioned,
Yeah,
parents.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that
Um,
message, Danny.
I'll give you an example. Like I listened to your introductory podcast, and I was really moved on how you um advocate for your sister. That is awesome how you advocate for her. So I would just encourage you to keep that up.
Oh, thanks, Danny. That means a lot for you to say that. Thank you.
Uh, uh,
Thank you. Um, so I imagine in your life you have some people on your team, right, that help
yeah.
you help to advocate for you and help you to get you to where you are today. So how have those people helped you?
Um, they like, for example, my family and my my faith is like a huge stepping stone in my views as a disabled person, because if you don't have um uh, a good family, you don't really succeed in anything, not in anything, but family is really important to me, and yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great, Danny. And would you be able to share maybe how your family or some of the people that you've surrounded yourself with have helped you on your journey as an entrepreneur and building your motivational speaking business?
Yeah, absolutely. When I first uh did, when I first came up with the idea, I I said to my mom and a few people, I said, hey, I found this motivational speaking gig that I'm really good at. What do you think of me branching out and becoming a motivational speaker, and they said, absolutely, that is something that you are passionate about, and you're a good advocate and all that.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's awesome.
so,
So it sounds like they're
so,
super supportive of you in that
yeah,
decision to
yeah.
pursue motivational speaking.
Because there was nothing for a disabled person except um like myself. So I said, why not go on my own and see what I can do, and it's going really well. I'm involved on different boards and motivational speaking, and yeah,
That's awesome,
it's
man.
it's a fun journey that
Yeah.
I find. Yeah,
It takes a lot of courage and vulnerability and resiliency and persistence to put yourself out there like you have,
yeah,
and I have a ton
yeah.
of respect for you for doing that.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
thank you.
And Danny, you're being honored for an award. Can you tell us a little bit about that and the work that you've been doing there?
Um, yeah, last winter I was honored with the AODA 10th Anniversary Championship Award for my work with StopGap.ca, and I I thought it was just for my county, but it was not only for my county, but it was for all of Ontario. So that was a huge surprise, and yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations on that. So, Danny, can you tell us why you were honored with this award? So you mentioned stopgap.ca and your work you're doing with them. Can you tell the listeners about stopgap.ca and what you've been doing there?
Yeah, I in 2014 my frustration gets about boiled over with the amount of businesses that is not wheelchair accessible. So I did some research on that, and uh, I I came across that CA, and I at that time you could do the whole thing online, but now you can't. They changed the website, but I got all of the order forms online and went went around to different businesses and got some people behind me, and they're all really supportive. I enlisted the help of the shop class in my high school. Um, uh, yeah, so that's how that came about. And so far today, we have 19 reps in Listowel, and that's all because of what I did. So I'm really proud of what I did in
That's
my community.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you found this problem of not being able to access businesses and locations, and you put in the effort
Yeah,
and energy to go solve that problem and
yeah,
to make your town more accessible.
yeah,
19 installations of ramps, right?
yeah,
That's outstanding, Danny. That's awesome.
yeah.
So, Danny, if people want to get in touch with you to talk to you and learn more about your motivational speaking or the stopgap.ca project that you're involved with or anything else, how can they get in contact with you?
Uh, so you can email me at DannySteeves@gmail.com, or I have a Facebook page. Just go to Facebook.com and type in Danny Steeves public figure in the search engine and just shoot me a message. I would be more than willing to uh, share my story, or perhaps a book a speaking engagement to do that.
Okay, perfect. So, what we'll do, Danny, is we'll share your information in the show notes so people can easily access that and reach out.
And what I'll do, Eric, is send you a copy of my business card, and you can put that on the website as well if you want.
Perfect. So, Danny, it's been awesome interviewing you here, and now you asked for an opportunity to interview me.
Yeah,
So let's flip the tables here and switch positions, and you
okay,
can put the interview hat on, and I'll be the interviewee.
okay.
All right.
Uh, so, uh, one of my one of my biggest questions is why did you feel it was a need for this podcast? Like, what made you jump on the wagon and say, hey, what, like, why would you like to do this podcast in the first place? And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
Yeah, it's a good question. So, um, really, the main reason where it all started was with my sister, Danny. So,
yeah,
um, my sister has a disability that impacts her cognitive and physically,
yeah,
and that was from birth. So, um, for me, I didn't. We grew up kind of as siblings would, right? We fought with each other, and we, loved each other and played together and did all that fun stuff that siblings do. And um, as we grew up, I started to notice that other people outside of my family treated Sarah a little differently than we did. And at that point, I started to realize that people viewed Sarah differently, and they viewed our family differently.
absolutely, absolutely.
And
Uh, what, what, how did they view Sarah in your eyes? In as a brother, how did you put a stop to that?
yeah, it's interesting. So I picture myself pushing my sister, who she needs a wheelchair
Yeah,
now outside of the house, but at the time she was probably 12 or something like that, and she had a stroller, and I was pushing her in the shopping mall. I was probably 10 or something like that, I was pushing her in the shopping mall, and um, specifically kids like my age or around my age were just staring at us as we walked
Right.
by.
Yeah.
So as a kid,
Yeah.
my what I would do is I would stare back at them and look funny at them,
Yeah.
right? But then it was just a lack of understanding, right? So they didn't understand why this kid that was their age was in a stroller,
Yeah.
right? It was just I think a lack of understanding, and how I dealt with it at the time is just looking at them differently. um, and it's different now. I don't react the same way.
Um, how old is Sarah now?
She's 33.
Uh, and and um, do you find that she still gets stared at and picked on because she has a disability, or do you find that it has passed now?
Yeah, that's a good question, Danny. I think it's less now. She would be the best person to ask this question, but from my observation, I don't think she gets picked on, or I don't think she gets made fun of. I still think that there can be that lack of understanding. Like, how do I communicate with Sarah?
Yeah, and you find that it's uh, more kids or adults or both with a lot of understanding, or
Yeah, I think it's both. Um, it's if people have been around Sarah for a little while and got to know her, they quickly learn how to pick up the words that she's saying and communicate with her effectively. But
yeah,
if it's somebody new, then there can be that hesitancy, right? I think there's also the not wanting to maybe offend her, but not knowing how to communicate with her from we'll call them teenagers and above. For younger kids, I think that they're the understanding piece. They're just not quite sure, right? So there might be they might be a little bit scared or shy.
um,
And it's not that Sarah's a scary person, but that's just maybe
yeah,
the reaction that
right,
she gets.
and is that one of the reasons uh why you um did this podcast in the first place to educate not only adults but kids as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. So education's a big, big piece of it, and changing social and cultural perceptions of people with a disability, right?
Yeah,
We're all at the end of the day, we're all people,
yeah,
and we should treat all people equally.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
um,
the education piece of it is a big piece. I didn't specifically want to focus on kids, but kids are part of our families. They're part of our world. So it's important, I think, like you're saying, that we educate kids as well.
so what was your main focus when you first came up with this idea?
Yeah, so it came from my lived experience of supporting my sister within building and implementing the life that she wants to live. So we had to go to many, many different locations and talk to many different people to understand, uh, you know, what would be the best solution for Sarah. So trying to gather all this information on, housing,
Right,
support services, um,
yeah,
building friendships, all of that stuff, right? So it took a lot of time and a lot of work to have those conversations and understand what's out there. So I realized that other families are in our situation, Danny, right? Where there's a family
yeah,
with an individual with a disability, they're all
yeah,
doing the same work.
Absolutely.
So
Um,
to record those conversations and then share them, the intention of that is getting people easier access to that information and to those conversations.
and I'll just put out there, if your listeners are, are saying, what is my story, they can uh, contact me uh, privately, and I would be willing to uh, share it. That way I wasn't willing to share the whole story on the podcast because it's a huge story and I wasn't willing to take the time to uh, share that with them, but if they contact me, I would be more than willing to do that. But, but back to your interview, what, one of my final quest, questions is what, what is your back, background? What did you go to school for and all that?
Yeah. So thank you for your curiosity on that, Danny.
Uh,
My background, I went to I started at the University of Waterloo, and I did a bachelor's in environmental science, which was the environment and business program there, and I took a co-op option. And then when I graduated from that, I went to work for PepsiCo Foods, and I worked for
yeah,
them for about 5 years in operations leadership roles, so leading teams from 20 to 45. I did a small contract role in Dallas for a year and a half, doing IT system implementation, which was a lot of fun. And then I ended up leaving Pepsi, and I did a master's in business at Wilfrid Laurier. And then
well,
from there, I got into entrepreneurship, and I was working for a small tech company. And then from there, I went and helped to run my family business for a year. And now I'm currently completing the coaching program at Royal Roads University,
well,
and I'm working on building up the podcast and coaching um, families and individuals where there's a disability to help them, and that's really where my heart is and where my passion is.
and would you say that your passion came from having a sister with a disability, or what would you say your passion came from in the first place?
Yeah, absolutely, Danny. So having a sister with a disability is a huge part of it, and that's really why I'm doing what I'm doing today.
Yeah,
Another piece of it is always wanting to serve people and provide value, and I really love doing that with coaching and creating
yeah,
content and stuff like that. So combination of
yeah,
those things.
yeah. Uh, so, uh, going back to when we first met, like, why were you at that workshop, and what enticed you to go to that workshop?
Yeah. So um, the workshop was the Ontario Independent Facilitators Network Forum.
Right, yeah,
Yeah, and why I went to that workshop is because I wanted to learn more about what independent facilitators are doing, and to network with other independent facilitators as well to hear their stories and whatnot. And it was also great to meet, you know, people like yourself, Danny, and to learn about your story. And you're definitely a motivational guy, because the reason I came over to talk to you is because of a comment that you made. I can't remember the exact comment, but it was definitely motivational and touched my heart. So you're good
Um,
at what you do.
uh, thank you. I really appreciate that. Uh, well, that's all of the questions I have, so we'll, we'll talk a bit more off of the air, but that's all that we'll do
Okay.
for now. Yeah,
Perfect. Perfect, Danny. So this recording will be available to go up on your YouTube channel. So I'll format
yeah,
that and everything for you.
yeah,
And if you have any listeners to your YouTube channel that are interested in checking out the podcast, maybe we could include that in the show notes as well.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
cool. And people can also check that out at empoweringability.org.
yeah,
Okay, cool. Well, Danny, it was a lot of fun chatting with you today and doing this video
yeah,
and the recording. So, um, yeah, so I'm excited to continue chatting with you and keep working on things.
yeah.
Okay, cool. We'll
Thank
talk
you.
soon, Danny.
Yeah, bye.
Okay.